face. I can feel God's mighty power and God's grace. I can feel the brush of angels' wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. I can feel God's mighty power and God's grace. I can feel the brush of angels' wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. Well,
welcome to Angel's Landing. Whoops. Hi. Okay, a little technique there. I have a few announcements to begin with. Next Sunday, May 31st, Lori and John will give us a music Sunday, an all musical Angel's Landing Sunday. We've had those before and we really look forward to it. The following Sunday, June 7th, Dr. Goodall will speak. This will allow Deb to take time off, much needed time off, to go to a retreat. Coming together here today, we create a divine heartbeat. May we who gather receive the nutrients needed to grow and recognize the divine mystery within. May we experience the reflection of divine love in each other and ourselves. May our circle always be sacred, honoring the healing, teaching, receiving, and growing of each spirit that enters. May the truth always abide and peace always bless us. Please join me in saying the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever and ever. Amen.
Good morning. Happy Sunday. What a gorgeous day we have out there. So for those of you joining us live right now, thank you for taking the time right now to gather with us virtually. And if you're tuning in later, we're really excited to welcome you through time and space also. So it's a gorgeous day. It's gorgeous when it's raining too, but boy, do I enjoy seeing the sunshine out there, finally feeling like spring. So today we kind of have an exciting topic. We are in a phase where we have invited our listeners to give us some feedback. Tell us the topics that you're most interested in hearing about, the places that you're struggling, the places that you'd like to learn more in. And so that's kind of where we're sowing the seeds every Sunday now. And this was a great topic that was suggested. I had a lot of fun preparing for this one. And we're gonna just open up and see what comes through in the channel. I've opened our 6 directions. I've called in our guardians and our guides and our ancestors and the teachers, and everybody's here with us. So I would love everybody to just kind of take a deep breath, get settled, and just kind of tune back into yourself for a moment so that we create that sacred space in us where we can listen and where we can process. And we can just let that divine energy kind of imbue us with all the gifts that the message delivers today. So breathing in, breathing out, and listening with our whole body, our soul, our hearts. So today, we're going to talk about intuition. It's a superpower, intuition, and it's something everybody can develop and tap into. But right now, I think part of the impetus of bringing this forward right now is figuring out how we use something like that today in the world with the challenges that we have right now. So let's start with looking at what intuition is, what we need to understand in order to develop it. Krishnamurti is quoted as saying, intuition is the whisper of the soul. I love that, the whisper of the soul. And one of the things that brings up is the fact that we need to be quiet to hear a whisper. And so having that peaceful, quiet space inside of you and creating a sacred environment to allow that space to listen is pretty important in order to tap into intuition, especially when you first start practicing it. And it's like flexing a muscle, right? We get better at it, we get stronger at it, and we can tap into it faster. But it comes from a place that's very quiet inside of us. Einstein even said the only real valuable thing is intuition. So I think this is something very much worth exploring. So what does it feel like when you're following your intuition? I should say yes. My head says yes. Logic says yes. Reason says yes. Friends say yes, but maybe there's something inside of me saying no. There's something inside of me that isn't sure. And so what do? So that little gnawing piece at you that's saying, is this right? Isn't this right? And our head and our hearts are not in alignment, and our intuition is kind of throwing everything off because it really is calling you to look deeper at whatever it is that you're kind of exploring the answer for. So understand that you are a powerful being beyond all measure that you can even comprehend. You are a very powerful being, and we really only typically tap into a little bit of that. But this intuition is just kind of the tip of the iceberg of the power that we have inside of ourselves. And when I say power, I'm not talking about the power of, what's important in the world, the power I yield, the egoic power. I'm talking about that divine power, that spark, that light, that piece of you that is that unique reflection of your higher power, of God, of Creator, of the universe, of love. That power, that is not even comprehensible to us, how powerful we are. And so we need to start with that, because our intuition is a reflection of that. Intuition can be interpreted as this divine higher self in communication with us. And so that in and of itself needs to be a part of your belief system, that you are divine and that your intuition is part of how you communicate with yourself. It's also important to recognize that we are multidimensional, that we live in more than one dimension. And what's hard sometimes is to get outside of that physical dimension, that what we touch, what we see, what we hear, all from the outside, and really recognize how on the inside, there's this whole other dimension going on. That's not imagination. It's very, very true. There's an energetic dimension. There are actually several dimensions, but when we're talking about our intuition, that's coming from a place inside of us that is part of our energetic dimension. And so, if a surgeon wants to cut you open and find your intuition to activate or to, adjust, we can't find it. It's not three-dimensional, right? But it is very real. And that belief in a higher power, that belief in the mystical things and the mysteries of what we can't see, touch, feel, hear, but sense and know is very important. Now, many of us already get the sense of this. We're somewhat awakened to it. But it's important to renew our belief in it, to recognize it, to hear it, to absorb that again. The Native Americans believe that women have a wiring that allows them to tap into this much faster and easier than men do. And so, kind of walking through this sometimes even helps people who are struggling with, well, I'm not exactly sure what this is all about. We're walking through this step by step, one bite at a time, kind of figuring this out together and renewing what our beliefs are in order to tap into a deeper place in our intuition so that we can heal, so that we can figure things out, so that we don't feel like we're floundering in life. So the dimensions, the multi-dimensions within us are important to recognize. So we have our physical body, okay, right here. We got it. We know it. There's the physical body. And then there's the energetic body. And that's part of us. Then there's our emotional body that taps into our heart space, our emotions. Then we have our mental body. That comes from our sixth chakra, our intellect, our reason, our logic. Okay. Then we have our intuitive body. And that intuitive body can sense the alignment of all of those together. And then just outside of that, we have our spiritual body. And all of those affect each other. Okay. If that's something of interest to you, that's a good body of work to study is Carolyn Mace's. She does a wonderful job of expanding and explaining how the intricacies of all those different parts of us work together, especially the unseen, or Ayurvedic medicine puts all of those together and helps you know how to read those. So those are two different places to go for more information if you're really interested in that. But as Carolyn Mace says, one of the most difficult things about recognizing the physical and the energetic intuitive bodies together is the fact that there needs to be a congruency. They need to come together. They need to align. And when we're aligned is when we feel most connected to ourselves, to our higher power, and to everything in between. And we don't really get these thoughts or feelings of discontent, frustration, suffering. Those things don't come up when we're congruent. So our intuition is there to help us become congruent, to help us align our minds and our hearts together so that we know how to create the life that we want. We know how to create more love in the world. We know how to be in alignment with the greatness that's meant for us. We know how to accept all the love that's meant for us. So that's an important reason to follow and really get in touch with this. Often we are not in sync because we don't know how to distinguish between our thoughts and our feelings. So being able to have something come up that feels disconcerting and say, okay, where is this coming from? What is this? Is this a feeling? Is this a heart space? Or is this a thought? And is the thought connected to something that's true or untrue? Is the feeling connected to something that's true or untrue? Our feelings are always true. Our thoughts are not always true. And so knowing how to distinguish and dive into truth courageously courageously, meaning all the way down to the rawness of what we might not want to face, becomes imperative, okay? The intelligence of our system works when we can go inside and shine a light to really look at truth, to everything that's in the shadows, why I feel this way, what brought that feeling on, and is it true where that's coming from, what I'm interpreting. So see, our thoughts and our feelings about an event, a situation, some sort of a wound maybe, they can get us very confused. And that's where we have a hard time dropping into the intuition and figuring out, what am I supposed to do? Okay, so head versus heart becomes important to recognize. And then with our sixth chakra, our mental, and our fourth chakra, our heart, in between is the fifth chakra, the throat. And what becomes very interesting is that when these are in conflict and we're not able to bring them into alignment, we create a problem here. We don't know how to answer something. We don't know how to speak our heart or our mind because we're not in alignment. Oftentimes this becomes addiction. We may eat our way through that confusion, through that stress. We may do drugs. We may silence ourselves. We might scream and yell, but a lot of power resides right here. And when we're not getting these two in line, this is where it shows. So learning how to listen to those signs for yourself helps you understand when you're not in an intuitive state. If you're having trouble knowing how to speak, if you're having trouble with a particular addiction, if you find yourself, like I do, running to the kitchen when I get stressed out, this is a sign I'm not in alignment. And when that happens, what's healthiest, what's healing, what serves your highest good is to take a breath. Take a breath, take a moment, find your space, find your sacred space. I think last week we talked a little bit about how to create sacred space, how to create reminders around your house. So where it is that you tend to reside when you're stressed is a great place to put those reminders. So I tend to put things on my refrigerator because that's where I go when I'm stressed. And when I'm in autopilot, then I get there and I get the reminder, stop and take a breath. Go sit in meditation for a couple of minutes. Go sit and stare out the windows. Go be with what this feeling is and face that raw, deep truth rather than trying to shove it down more so that I can get my mind and my heart in alignment. And when I get that congruent, then from deep down in my gut, my intuition comes up and gives me the answers that put my heart and my head all together, and then this clears and I can speak my truth to myself, to others. I can take the action needed and I can bring myself back into that place of highest vibration that's healthiest for me, that serves my greatest good and that of those around me. Okay, so that congruency becomes really important. The intelligence of our system, when I talked about how powerful we are without even recognizing it, our systems are so incredibly intelligent, even the way they talk with each other. An example, the vibration of different organs throughout the day have different focuses, which organ might be most affecting your mood, your thoughts, etc. Let's just review head and heart because we're kind of focused there. So from about 4 o'clock in the morning till around, I think it's 2:30 in the afternoon, our head is a little bit more dominant than our hearts. So no surprise, that's a typical work day for a lot of people when we're engaging mentally, when we're engaging our intellect, our wisdom, our third eye can be most active with most ease through the majority of the day. Come around 2:30, this is when people can kind of get a little foggier. So after 2:30, when we're still in that workday, 2:30 to 5 or 6 o'clock at night, sometimes it's like, oh my God, I need a nap, or I'm just not as focused, or this is a little bit harder for me to get to. Well, that is because the rest of that day, 2:30 till 4 in the morning, the heart becomes more dominant. Our emotions become more dominant. And so we could have, say, some problems during the day that we're intellectualizing. And then by the time it comes to evening, we're kind of figuring out how we feel about those problems or why that problem irritated me earlier. I didn't realize I was really feeling like this, and that's why I was saying this. So there is a dominance in the power of how our vibration works in our body, which chakras activated, which organs are activated. There's just a huge amount of intelligence in that. I don't want to get too much further into that. There's a ton of study there if you want to get into that. But to just recognize that that's there and understand it for yourself helps you understand that there's so much going on, that your cognition, that your awareness, that your consciousness may not be tuned into. That makes it worth slowing down and checking in with yourself. So when we engage this intuition, it's kind of a shortcut because the intuition is engaged with all of that intelligence and power moving through our bodies. And when we tap into it, it brings forth that which is in greatest alignment with ourselves, checking in with all that stuff that we're unconscious about. So it's kind of, the communication highway is right there if you can just pick up on it. So that's the beauty and the mystery of the intuition and how we get in touch with it. So we can also face the challenge of having an ego that's stronger than our spirit when we're not awakened, when we're not spiritual beings, when you see people in the world or in your life who are much more focused and, one directional with their own egoic patterns. Okay. So they just don't know how to get outside of that and have not sought that for themselves yet. So when we're not awakened and we don't have some level of spiritual practice, then we're usually not congruent. We're usually out of alignment. We're usually stuck here. We can be stuck here, but there isn't a whole lot of communication there or aligning with the intuition. And so those are people that can be more frustrating for you. They can be the ones that agitate you. They can be the ones that test you, but bows to them because they're bringing you the opportunity for practice. They're bringing me the opportunity for practice. And that practice helps me get deeper into where is best for me. Not even just what I want to say, where I want to be, but what's healthiest for me and for my spirit. So when our own egos step in, even those of us who have spiritual practices and are awakened, we always, our ego is there for a reason. It's important to identify excuses. So you want to be able to identify when you're making an excuse for yourself and being able to focus to the inside. So that jams the system up and we don't get this clear congruency. So being able to identify excuses is really important because our ego is just as amazing and fascinating as the rest of our psyche. And we'll get really tricky with ourselves and we can find excuses and we can find reasons and we can call up our wounds and, all of these things to not really get to that raw truth. But we can't access the truest communication from our intuition unless we clear those things, clear the excuses. Clear the scar tissue, be able to see through it. It takes deep courage in order to do that. But when we clear those excuses, then we can really dive in more. Then we can really get in alignment. So being able to have a practice helps clear that easier. It's kind of like if you never sweep your floor, the day you decide to sweep your floor, you're going to have a lot of work. But if you sweep your floor every day, less buildup is there. It becomes easier to keep your floor clean. Same thing with practice. So the more often you have a meditation practice, some sort of a spiritual practice, yoga, tai chi, whatever it is that helps you stay in alignment with your highest self, then you can get back to that alignment a lot easier. So that sustains our congruency and keeps the connection with our deeper wisdom. Prayer. Okay, so aside from meditation, prayer is a little bit different, but the type of prayer that helps us with intuition is the kind where the message is, help me to deal with truth. Help me remove denial, okay? That denial, excuses, that piece that just gets in the way with our ego up here. Prayer comes into great amount of help there. Please help me remove that. Please help me see the truth. Please help this not be so painful and such a struggle for me. Okay? When we lean into that, like last week we, explored who God is to us. And when we have that connection with our higher power, when we have that connection with something greater than ourselves, and we can lean into that, and we can give up our denial and give up our excuses, and makes it a lot easier to clear things out. So that really helps bring us into alignment. Knowing who you are, aligning with your values, knowing what your values are, knowing your own moral compass is also essential. So that when you are trying to, I have a kitty cat here who's going a little crazy. When you are trying to align yourself, your, hi honey, I'm gonna put you down. Sorry. Your values help you figure out where on that spectrum you actually lock in. So whatever you're contemplating, your intuition needs to have kind of a landing zone to come up into. And so knowing in your mental body what your values are, where your ethics, your morals, where everything falls for you, gives you a solid place to connect to. That's really important. Not trusting yourself creates a spiritual crisis. So having those values and that moral compass, knowing who you are, having trust in yourself, creates that space of solid groundedness. Without that, we kind of start to linger up here, and that's when we have our spiritual crisis. So our intuition helps us stay connected to ourselves so that we don't end up in that spiritual body wavering out here, unable to figure out how we connect to the mental, the emotional, the energetic body and in. Okay, so that spiritual crisis comes when we're not in alignment with our values, when we don't know ourselves, when we don't trust ourselves. So having that is important. Spending time creating that is important, and that's part of a spiritual practice. That helps us from giving our power away. And that's the other thing that throws us out of alignment. And we can do it very unconsciously, and we can do it very consciously. So when you feel like somebody's attached to you, or you're attached to an idea, a person, you have an expectation that you really want, you're already giving your power away to that thing, okay? You're getting drained. When we get tired and exhausted, we're giving our power away. So where in that aura of all of your different energy bodies are you leaking, okay? You have traumas throughout your life that you anchor into, And if you don't work on the healing of those and the forgiveness piece in those, they will always be taking your energy. So that also will block us from being able to get to our intuition. When we have forgiveness that needs to happen, we also get challenged and we can't get into alignment because we have this emotional connection of pain to something. And so when we get stuck there, praying for blessings to the people that challenge us. If we can't forgive them, we know God can, we know our higher power can, and we say, please, please help show me the way into that. The Ho'oponopono prayer is a wonderful place to go with that. And so clearing anything that needs forgiveness also helps clear that channel to our intuition. So how can we apply this to today's crises? And this was part of the challenge, right? So right now, we have all this information out there about our COVID-19 pandemic. And it doesn't matter what you want to believe or what you want to prove wrong, you can find information on both sides. I say both as if there's only two, on every side of that argument. There are professionals, there are words out there being spewed, there are different opinions, there's different scientific fact. I mean, you can really argue anything you want. So what are you supposed to believe? Where does that leave you? If you're not anchored in yourself, if you don't know how to trust yourself, and if you're not tuned in with your intuition, it leaves you floundering. It leaves you breathless. It leaves you stressed out. It leaves you leaking energy everywhere, exhausted, fatigued, and unable to know how to come back into alignment, to find your congruency and figure out what's true for you. One of the most important things to believe and understand, the raw truth of it is, they're all true, and none of them are true. And each person has a different answer that's right for them right now, where they are, who they are, what karma they have, what circumstances are in their life, what journey and story is playing out, to which you have very little knowledge of. In fact, many of us have very little knowledge of what's our journey going through this. We know where we are in space and time right here and now, and we're focused on that third dimension, that physical dimension, and we know a little bit about our story there. But energetically, we're all out of alignment. So this is a wonderful time to bring ourselves together, to touch down in, because I guarantee you, while the information around you, outside you in the world, is somewhat important, it's not nearly as important as the information inside of you, the wisdom that you already have to tap into. But you have to deepen your trust in yourself. You have to understand yourself, and you have to speak the language of your intuition so that you bring everything into alignment and you can truly dive deep into that and find the answers that you need right now that will not come from all the experts around you or the family around you or the friends around you, because it's all conflicting. And so you're getting washed through all that conflict. So how do we pull it down deep inside of ourselves? Let that all wash away. Go within, drop in, find the truth, know who I am, and find my answers. That's what we need to settle down all of the noise. All the noise. Turn off the TVs. Limit your time on social media. Figure out where your most trusted sources are for information you don't know. And then go inside and process that. so that you can find your alignment and know how you want to be in the world and respect where everybody else is as well, because there are no right or wrong answers. You need to find your own first. Okay? So Albert Einstein also said, the intuitive mind is a sacred gift and the rational mind is a faithful servant. We have created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. So I like that quote because this is how we've gotten to this point where we need to actually tap into and learn how to get into our intuitions again. So the answer is to be awakened, be mindful, use your intuition. It is always your choice how you choose to see something, okay? So it's your choice, but you've got to go within to figure that part out. Honor the parameters that you have and find your freedom within it, okay? Even locked in a house, you can have a tremendous amount of freedom in your mind, but you have to be brave enough to really dive deep and figure that part out. Whew, okay. I got rolling and now I don't so much need my notes here. Let's go into our meditation now, okay? So get comfortable in your seat. Deep breath, connect with the breath, close your eyes. Call an awareness to your head, to your mental space, to your cognitive wisdom. Drop down into your throat chakra. And just feel what that's like right now. Does it feel smooth and easy? Does it feel hung up? Does it feel tight? Does it feel scratchy? What does that space feel like? It helps you know whether or not your head and heart are in alignment right now. Drop your attention into your heart space. Open your heart. Kind of open your heart and let love in from the inside. Let it open. And when you think about whatever subject matter you're challenged with right now that might be coming up during this talk, take it from your head, acknowledge what you think about it, drop it into your heart, acknowledge how what emotions are surrounding it. Recognize whether or not that dropped freely through your throat. If it didn't, you'll have more work to do with this later. And if your head and your heart are in alignment, now drop it down into your gut, all the way down to a little below your belly button, around your second chakra. Drop it down in there. Feel it in there, in your gut, in your intuition. What does your gut tell you? What's your gut feeling about this? Without needing to rationalize, excuse. Feel it in that space. If you have any excuses that keep coming up, or rationalizations or mistrusts, look at where those might be coming from. Where might you be jamming up your system? Where is your real truth and what is that now? And oftentimes that will just bubble up and it's a thought that you weren't even thinking, and there it is. Breathe into that and allow that feeling to come up from your belly to your heart, through your throat, and into your mind, connecting all the way up through your 7th chakra, into your divine truth. Feel how all that can be connected. And draw that energy down through your legs, through your feet, using it to really connect with Mother Earth, to ground into yourself and your deep knowing of yourself. Which connects you to the greatest whole, helping you feel part of all. Bringing the whole circle together. If you're feeling attachments to traumas, to ideas, to things that are pulling you from outside yourself, simply call your power back. Acknowledge that your power is outside yourself and just call it back and say, I need you here now. If you need to, picture yourself kind of cutting the cord that connects you to something, but bring all your power back. Call it back in. And that should help you ground back down into that gut feeling, that intuitive nature. And trust it there. And as you feel your alignment, your congruency coming back in, send love to yourself. Send love to the ancestors. Send love to everybody that challenges us. Send love to any wounds that were there. And just bring yourself back into your body. Go ahead and just keep your eyes closed. Stay relaxed. We're going to have a little meditation music now. Deep breath in, coming back. I hope you had a good journey that helped you feel deeper into yourself. One of the shortcuts I like to use when I'm trying to make sure I'm staying in alignment with myself is Don Miguel Ruiz's 5 agreements. So those, when I'm following those, it's kind of the shortcut for me to remember that I'm living in a aligned way that helps me tap into that intuition very quickly. So 1, be impeccable with your word, with yourself as well as others. Don't take anything personally. Don't make any assumptions. Always do your best. Always give the world the best of who you are. Today's best is different than tomorrow's best, but just always putting forth your best. And the 5th agreement is to be skeptical, but learn to listen. And that's very important outside of yourself right now and inside of yourself right now. So what others say and do is a projection of their own reality, their own dream. Okay? When you are immune to that, when you cannot take things personally, and when you're not making assumptions, you don't get into a position of needless suffering, recognizing everyone's on their own journey. And you have the tools to find your own answers. You have the wisdom and the superpower of your intuition to tap in and really figure out not even what's right, because if there's something right, then there's something wrong. What you're figuring out is what is in your highest spiritual good right now. What's in your highest good? What's in the highest good of your family? What's in the highest good of you right now? So with that, I want to offer a closing prayer. This is a Lakota prayer. Creator, teach me how to trust my heart, my mind, my intuition, my inner knowing, the senses of my body, the blessings of my spirit. Teach me to trust these things so that I may enter my sacred space and love beyond my fear. And love beyond my fear. And love beyond my fear. And thus walk in balance with the passing of each glorious sun, that you may all find peace with each glowing moon. Aho. Thank you so much for listening today.
Sing on your end. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God as creator. Family all are we. Let me walk with my family in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow, to take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
Thank you for sharing your beautiful message, Deb. And that prayer at the end was really so moving. I'd like to see a copy of that, if that's possible. Put that on our website. It was just really touching. I want to thank all of you so much for joining us today. And if you have a topic that you would like Deb to talk about, please email her. If you're able to give your love offering to support our continued operations, information is in the email invite sent out, and there's also a way to donate through our website. Checks can always be sent as well. We prefer during this time that you send them to Melinda's address at home. We invite you to stay and have some fellowship with us if you would like to. Take a few minutes, maybe 2 minutes or so, take a break, stand up and stretch and get a cup of hot tea or iced tea maybe today and come back and talk a bit. If not, we'll see you next Sunday for our all musical Sunday from our songbirds. So thank you for joining us.